welcome to Talk of the County podcast, a new podcast which is set up for the county to talk about the main clubs, as we call them, Cheltenham Town, Forest Green Rovers and Gloucester City. I'm joined by Sean Baker, who's an avid Forest Green Rovers fan. He's here to probably give me a lot of stick over the next few months, because it hasn't been a great start and it's been a brilliant start for Forest Green. So welcome to the pod, Sean.
Hey Dan, you alright, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. How this will work over the next few weeks is we will have a representative from Gloucester City, we'll have more Cheltenham Town fans, and we will also have more Forest Green Rovers fans just to talk about expectations, results, up and coming games, issues at the club. We could probably fill this whole pod with talk about Cheltenham Town at the moment. But yeah, that's how we're going to be going over the next few weeks. So I hope everybody enjoys it and gets involved. And if there's anybody who ever wants to get involved, please drop myself or Sean a message and we'll happily try and get you on. So we'll get straight into it. We'll start with Cheltenham Town. So we've had some positive news over the last couple of weeks, Sean, with Mike Garlick being announced as a new major shareholder in Cheltenham Town. I believe it's about 77% of the club he now owns.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's great news for Cheltenham as a club. Myself being a fan, I've been following Cheltenham for 28 years, and we've been waiting for something like this to happen forever. You guys know what it's like to have investment. What's the feeling amongst football fans outside about the direction Cheltenham are now taking?
To be honest, I think it's a little bit unknown at the moment. Obviously, I don't think anyone's really sure on what sort of financials Garlick's going to bring. Obviously, I think he'll bring you a lot of stability. When obviously you look at, he was at Burnley, and they were always a pretty steady club, sort of yo-yoing up and down the Premier League, weren't they? Obviously, it's a different level to what he's used to, but I think being that experienced, you'll see a similar thing, but on a lower level, should I say? Yeah,
you're right. I think what's been said from a lot of Burnley fans is he won't chuck millions at it straight away. I think he's even said himself it's more an evolution rather than a revolution. I think he likes to do a complete audit of a football club, look to invest in areas that needs investing in. I think it's quite well known at Cheltenham. Obviously, have bought their own training ground now, which is a great setup down there, but a bit outdated. I think in the summer, I think they said there was, I think something like 7 or 8 pitches, but only one of them's like at a good football league standard to train on. The other ones with like the grass is all dead because they've not got a sprinkler system or anything down there. So I think things like that he'll look to invest in. The stadium, when the club was put up for sale, I think it was put out there that Cheltenham were looking for somebody who can come in, redevelop Wadham Road, build a new stand. There was talks of the cost of that was going to be between 12 and 15 million. So again, that's not going to be an overnight thing. So I think Mike Garlick could come in, he'd do that. And I think what most Cheltenham fans are asking for is just sustainability. We've been in League One 3 times. Spent 3 years each time for the last 2 times, and then we've ended up coming back down because it catches up on you in the end. There's only, when you stay up, the bigger clubs look at your players, like your Alfie Mays, and off they go. And for clubs like Cheltenham, that's hard to replace. So dropping back down was always going to be that case. So I think what we want is to have that stability and stay in League One for a bit longer. So I think it's positive for Cheltenham. We're waiting to see. Like I said, I think fans need to be a bit more realistic. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be something I think you'll probably look back in about 2 or 3 years' time and go, what's changed for Cheltenham since Mike Garlick's been in?
I think one of the key things, and I think you said it there, I think fans need to be realistic. I think he's going to bring, obviously, money into the club, but the be-all and end-all isn't about what team or the players that he signs at this moment right now. You've got, like you said, training ground issues. I've seen quite a few comments, actually, from Cheltenham fans, just saying, like, seasons could do with a lick of paint.
Yeah.
Little things like that don't cost a lot. the sprinkler system, the quality of what you're training on, is it different to what you're playing on a match day? That's all going to have an effect, I think, on the way you play on the field as well, because you're not training on that. What Forest Green have obviously just done is obviously they've opened up their new training complex at the M5, and they train on exactly the same surface as what they play on a match day. It's a hybrid training ground pitch and a hybrid football pitch. So what you're training on is exactly what you're going to be playing on, and I think it just helps you with the gelling of the team, the passing. You ain't getting used to different pitches like like with Cheltenham. You're playing away from home and then you're playing at home, and every single week and through the week, you're having to judge a pitch, even from some as small as being bobbly, not having sprinklers, so they're used to playing on probably training on a dry pitch, and then they're going and having a sprinkler system on the pitch, and the ball's slipping on the surface. I think that's going to have a big effect. But if he gets all that into thing, as well as just consolidating in League Two, you don't know where you're going to go in a few years. It might take a few years, but I can see Cheltenham as a League One club easily.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You do well. You attract fans, and that's
it's
natural.
the same as that film, isn't it? You Field of Dreams. You build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And you're right. What Dale's done at Forest Green is, the pitch up at the new lawn is fantastic. You always see fans mention it. When it's on telly, you can tell it's an eye level pitch. The pitch at Wadham Road is a brilliant pitch, but it's no hybrid pitch. It's basically ripped up every season, reseeded,
Yeah.
but it's looked after well. But when you get into around about January and February, it starts to become a bit bobbly. Even though the grass is still on top of it, it's the undersurface.
Yeah.
But that ain't mirroring what as you said, the training pitch is on a Monday to Friday when they're playing on dry, hard, bobbly pitches. When it comes to the winter, it's been well known at Cheltenham to go and train at Winchcombe or use Bishop's Cleeve's 4G pitch, which costs the club money. Where if we invest and have our own 4G pitch down in seasons, we've got the land there to do it. The club can start making sure the academy's there as well, and they're training close with the first team. But yeah, and I think what it moves on to as well is the fact that Cheltenham have had a lot of injuries this season. A couple of them have been broken hand, and we've got Jordan Thomas with a broken shoulder, but muscular injuries. That it's no coincidence that we're moaning about the pitches on training, and then the players are pulling up with muscle injuries, and that can only come from playing on poor surfaces. I can remember when I used to play when I was a bit younger, and used to play get to this part of the season, say August, and used to play the charities, they used to call it, on a Thursday night, and you used to come off and your Achilles used to be sore because you used to say you got heels on as you're running across the pitch because it was that hard. So yeah, it is a watch this space, and see what happens. As we're talking about Cheltenham, Tuesday night we went to Plymouth. Was very shocked that Plymouth put a strong side out. We ended up playing a back three with two academy players. Mark Barber, who's got a throw longer than Ben Tozer, I can assure that he is a monster throw. But he done okay. Sam Sheeran played his first game. He played about 60-70 minutes. So I'm excited about that as a signing. But going 1-0 down, Sean, after a minute, I feared for the worst. I thought we was going to end up being on the end of my prediction, which I did on another podcast, the Robin's Report podcast. I joked around and said 8-0, and after we went 1-0 down after a minute, I turned to my missus and I went, I think my prediction. I was keeping an eye on Forest Green's result was down there, and I won't tell you, I was pleased when I saw you went 1-0 down, and then when I checked again, you was 2-1 up. But yeah, a 2-0 defeat for Cheltenham down at Plymouth. To be fair, wasn't too bad. The positives I'll take out of the game is the fact Mohamed Diallo played in goal, probably fought for the first goal. Could have done a bit better, but he made 2 or 3 absolute worldies for a 17-year-old lad playing against Talaj, their new one.
Is he an academy player? Is he?
Yes, he's an academy player. he's funny enough. He went on loan to Bath City last season and got pulled back 2 days later because Cheltenham let Owen Evans go to Barnet. So he's not, apart from a few minutes here and there in pre-season, that was his first start for the club. So
Okay.
17 years old. I think he's got a bright future of him. The one save he made in the first half when the Plymouth lad hammered it across goal, and then he got his hand to turn it around the post. Even though the Plymouth lad put his hands on his head, on Diallo's head, and was like, "How did you save that?" And then he saved a penalty in the second half. It was a brilliant save in the second half. But the game, it's the Virtue Trophy. You can't read too much into it. A load of young lads took a bit positive out of a few of the young lads getting some minutes. So we're talking about Tuesday. We might as well jump to Forest Green. You went to Morecambe.
Yeah, well, I was at work, so I watched what I could on it. We did all right. To be fair to Morecambe, obviously we all know their struggles, we all know the problems they've had. I actually think they've done really well. For a team that's not had a pre-season, not even had a team up until a couple of weeks ago, they actually did better than I was expecting. Now, I think Forest Green played well. We had a fair few chances. I think Robbie alluded on it in his interview after the game. He said we could have been 1-10-0. Now, obviously, he said things like that quite regular. I know no teams obviously really go out there and win 10-0. That's quite a rare thing. But we did have a lot of chances. I mean, they scored an absolute worldie. Again, yeah, we could probably do better to stop that, even getting to that point. But sometimes you've got to hold your hand up, and when they've been through that, it was nice for them to have that moment, I would guess. And and then in the end we come out and won 3-1, which Tom Knowles obviously getting 2. I mean, he's like a super sub. He's mainly been a substitute this season, and he's been brilliant when he's come on. He started at Halifax the other week because Trey, I think they kept him off as a precaution, and Knowles was again brilliant when he started, but I feel sorry for him because he's done so well and he does warrant a start. But then Trey's been brilliant since he's come in as well. He's obviously come in from Macclesfield, big step up. But you can't knock what he's done. He's got a lot of pace. He plays very high, very much like Kengi. Kengi was obviously seen as the weaker sort of player from Macclesfield, but it's a different level. But yeah, they play really high, and then Tom Knowles comes in, does really well, but then the next game he's dropped back down to the bench. So you've got to feel a bit sorry for him in that respect. But yeah, sorry, I've gone off track a little bit there. But going back to Morecambe,
just stick on Tom Knowles a minute there, Sean. Like just looking at his career stats here, Yeovil, he probably his best period as a player has probably been at Yeovil, where he scored 16 in 74. I can remember him at Walsall, and he always seemed to be every time I see him against Cheltenham, he always seemed to be a player who works very hard, but he only managed to score 5. Do you think, working under Robbie Savage, can you see that Robbie Savage can maybe get more out of him this season?
I think he already has. This season, he looks like a completely different player. He started okay last season, and he seemed to lose his confidence as the season went on. And come the end of the season, he was like unrecognisable. This season, he's been like a new signing almost, I would say. And I don't know what has got into him, but he seems to keep hitting them from the halfway line. And he's scored, he's hit the post. And obviously he scored a decent late free kick as well. Against Eastleigh. So yeah, I mean, he just looks a different animal. He comes on, even when he is on the subs bench, his attitude is just spot on. He just looks like, it's natural. I think it's human nature. If you're playing well, but you're not starting probably as much as you'd like, your natural feeling, you feel like you're a bit down, but I don't see that with him. He just seems to keep going and just keep battling, and he comes on and he just looks a completely different player already this season. I mean, it's still early in the season, of course, But when I look at him last season to this season now, I mean, he just looks a completely different player. Touching on Warsaw, when we actually signed him from Warsaw, their fans spoke quite highly of him. Just said if you play him in the right position, like you're gonna have a cracking player. So I'm not quite sure where they actually played him at Warsaw. I think he was playing like a number 10 or something.
Number 10, yeah. So I watched him. I watched your game against Eastleigh, and the goal he scored. A lot of people, even myself after the day, I kind of had a bit of a pop at the Eastleigh goalkeeper Townsend, because I think the way Forest Green set up was the ball was going to be whipped in and aimed for Innes. But
Yeah.
what Knowles did, Knowles took that look at the goalkeeper, looked at his positioning, and it was brilliant. The game wasn't the best of games, but the finish was probably what Forest Green deserved. But that shows what he's got in the locker, doesn't it? Sort of.
Yeah, and I was quite surprised because that Townsend who plays in goal, I wanted us to sign him from Newport. I thought he was one of the better goalkeepers in League Two, and then I thought Eastleigh was an odd move for him, but I mean he played well in that game, and then it was just that last, the last couple of minutes, he was. Where I sit, I can't really see exactly what he's done, or whether he was lining up, still trying to line up his wall, or whether he just wasn't ready or set or what. But when I watch a replay back, he just left the goal gaping on the one side. He sort of stood behind the wall, and it was all over the left hand side. And I mean, you've still got to execute the free kick, not as hard, but you've still got to execute it and get it spot on, because it's easy just to, he just really did just play it in more in the centre, I think, than the corner.
It was a brilliant strike, as you said, because like I said, when you watched it, even though Townsend was telling him I'm going to anticipate your cross here, but I think, like you said, it looked like he left the goal open. He did it on purpose, because I think he was saying, well, if you bend it around there and get it in, then fair play to you. But it was poor goalkeeping in the terms that he was almost stood on his post, wasn't he, waiting for that cross to come in. And
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a good player, and I think you've got a player there who, scored 2 on Tuesday night for you. Him and obviously Mitchell as well. Before we move on from Tuesday night, talk to me about Mendy, because that's one player who seems to have stood out for me for you.
Well, Mendy, he looks like an absolute diamond of a find. I mean, I say that, I mean, Robbie had him at Macclesfield. I watched him in the first game pre-season against Slimbridge. Obviously, completely different level playing against Slimbridge, and that's no disrespect to them. But Mendy came in that game, and I tweeted, I think, directly straight after the game, and said, I think we're going to have some player on our hands here, because you could just see the way he was on the ball, he was aggressive, he was like, in a way, I wanted to say like Ibu Adams. He was quite silky, and he showed he had good aggression, and there was just, I don't know, you just had that feeling. But as the season's he's come in and he's just hit the ground running, been one of our best players in more or less every game. I don't think he's really had a bad game, and it's surprising because he's 28. I'm surprised, he's only really just come up now. I would have thought. I'm surprised no other teams have gambled on him earlier. But
sometimes you need that, don't you? A manager who's managed you, gone up a couple of levels, and then gone, well, I think you'll be okay at this level. And like I said, I've only seen him play once, but I've seen obviously tweets from yourself and other Forest Green fans. And then the 90 minutes I saw against Eastleigh, he was by far the best player on the pitch.
Yeah, he's a gem, and I mean, he can play centre back, but he hasn't played there for us. He's obviously played in the middle, but I wouldn't want to lose him out in the middle, to be honest. But I think what you see from him as well is he plays with a smile. Like Rob has said it a few times. There's a few of them, they've never played football at a professional level with names on the back of their shirts. This is the first time. Obviously, he's one of them, and you can just see, they're playing with a smile. They come off the pitch. I think they love all the attention, and they're just happy to be playing.
Yeah.
rather than, and it's no disrespect to cops, but like yourself, we signed a lot of older professionals who were at the back end of their career. They're not. I'm not saying they don't want to win. Obviously, every footballer probably does want to win, but I think there's a different hunger there, isn't there? Because you've not achieved anything,
Yeah.
and you can see that with this team that Rob has built. There's a lot of youngsters coming in, like Gilly, Bamba, obviously Trey, Mendy. I know Mendy's not a youngster, but they've all come from a lower level, should I say, and they're all quick, but they're all like, you can see there's hunger there, and they hunt the ball. And what I noticed in one of the games, I can't remember if it was the Eastleigh game, when they lost the ball. No, I think it was the Sutton game. When they lost the ball, they were hunting it back in like 2s and 3s. They weren't going in individually. You get picked off. They were going in 2s and 3s, and the intensity that we've been playing is like, and I mean, against Eastleigh at one point, it was still 0-0 quite late in the game, and we've almost got 2 at the back. And last season, it was the complete opposite. We almost had 10 at the back.
Yeah.
I think the only time we really pushed forward last season was against Southend in the playoffs. We were 2-1 up. Was it in extra time? And then we pushed on to try and kill the game off, and they hit us on the counter and equalised, and obviously went out on penalties. And that is the only time I would have said last season I wanted us to sit back, and we didn't.
But I think you're spot on as well, though, Sean. Like, with the recruitment, it seems like Forest Green have gone a different way this summer. They've gone for players who have got a point to prove. Like Nick Ornton, was brilliant at Fylde. Never really been given a chance to be at a top National League side. It was that chance to get in the Football League. I can remember going back to the season we won the National League, and I can remember when Gary Johnson, the recruitment, Cheltenham brought a lot of young players in. You brought in, but you had also players like Kyle Storer, Danny Wright. You had Harry Powell. Harry Powell openly said on a podcast I was on with him recently that basically Cheltenham saved his career, because had Cheltenham not gone up that season, he would have just been, he was kind of like, he'd had a couple of clubs and he was kind of on that way down. He was up in clubs companies like Hereford, he'd been at Eastleigh, he'd been at Grimsby, and clubs like that. So he went to Cheltenham, and he said the whole setup, he said it was just like everybody had that point to prove, and that's the key thing I think for Forest Green this season, is that having players who have got hunger and have got that dangling carrot going, it's not too late for me to get in the Football League, or I might get my first chance in the Football League. Rather than no disrespect, because I absolutely love Liam Sercombe. He was unreal at Cheltenham for 4 years. He was actually our top goal scorer the season we got relegated to League One with 11 goals. But 35, Sean Long, decent player, but again hasn't really got the legs. You had Ben Tozer coming to the end of his career, and I think he openly admitted in a podcast he was on that he kind of fell in love with football. So they're not the players. They might have quality, but they're not the players who. And I'm not questioning their desire, but the same desire as a Mendy, same desire as a Tom Knowles, who want to prove themselves, and it might stand Forest Green in good stead going forward.
Well, obviously touching on Ben Tozer, I think now. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty certain he pretty much played the whole season last season with like pain and killing injections.
Yeah.
I think he was struggling with I can't remember what it was, his knee, or there was something. I remember hearing or something about it, and I know he had to keep it. So, and then I think that was really the end result in him retiring this year. I think he knew that he probably couldn't. He probably went the season on too much.
Yeah.
But again, they're great. They've been great professionals, and they've had great, in a way, great careers. But this season, there's just there's a different feeling around the whole club. Obviously, Dale brings a fair bit of negativity in with him, which I don't like. I don't agree with, and I have completely opposite views to what he does. I don't want to go into that. But Robbie Savage. And I've said it, he's not achieved anything on the pitch. I understand that. But the feeling around the club with the fans and everybody is I feel it's better than what we had under Rob Edwards, and what we had under Rob Edwards was great, and we ended up winning League Two.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm not just talking about on-field achievements and things like that. What I'm talking about is the feeling off the pitch. Like Robbie Savage here, walk around the fan zones, green man, like shaking everyone's hand. You know, during the game, like I think it was the Eastleigh game. It was the last few minutes, and we were obviously, after we scored, we had like 4 minutes or something left to play, and he was like coming up into the stands and sitting in a spare seat next to one of the Forest Green fans with his head in his hands like he couldn't watch a game. Obviously, I think it's been pretty well documented. He's, you know, been videoing himself singing with the South Stand at the end of the game when we win. Yeah, he's just obviously, I don't know, he's just been a breath of fresh air. And like I said, like proof, I think, is Tom Knowles, like what we've just been talking about. If I'm right, I think I'm right in saying in 40 games last season in the National League, Tom Knowles only scored 2 goals. This season he's already on 3, and he hasn't even hardly started. So I think it kind of shows you what Robbie Savage is like not management, but I think the positivity that I think he's even drilling into the players and giving them confidence.
Well, you would have remembered him, Sean, as a player. He was a full throttle player. He was a player who'd get into players. He would wind them up. I think I seen a video on X and Instagram from Forest Green, and it was showing. It was sort of like a behind the scenes kind of video, and I thought it was quite refreshing. What it told me.
What was that? That mic'd up Robbie.
Mic'd up Robbie, yeah. What it told me was that he knows his football. I've always liked Robbie Savage. To be fair, like I said, I liked him as a player. I liked him as a pundit. But what it showed was he knows what he's talking about. It shows that he knows how to motivate his players. You know, to talk before the game. Some people might say, "Oh, it's for the camera," but you know, I'm a great believer that, you know, you can't just put it on for the camera. You've got to know what, you know. You've got to know what to tick the boxes. But what we see after the game is I've joked about on X, and I've said it's cringe, but it's not. You know, it's just more. That's more just to get a raise out of you.
No, I know.
But it's brilliant to see. It's absolutely brilliant to see, and you know, put Rovers aside and what have you, to see a manager interacting with fans like that. You know, we got a little bit going on at the moment with Michael Flynn. I like Michael Flynn. He's straight talking. You know, black's black and white's white than Michael Flynn, and I like that. But what Robbie Savage does with you guys after the game when he's interacting and with the fans and all that, it's brilliant to see. I know some people might say, well, if Forest Green are going to lose the next 3 or 4 games, let's see what he's like with that. But I don't think Robbie Savage will change. I think he'll try and be that positive person behind the scenes, which, you know, pains me to say, I think is going to stand you in good stead when it comes to the end of the season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he's going to change, and I think that stands. I mean that in every way. His attitude off the pitch, you know, he's made it known to the fans. You know, he's not oblivious. We're going to probably hit a bad run at some point. Every team does it. And he has said to the fans, you know, just stick with us and support the boys. They're young lads. They're doing their best. And I've said it. I've said it on my X account. I don't mind losing a game of football. If we lose playing the way we're playing, I'll take that all day and every day, because we're going to win more than we lose, and I'm confident of that. I know Robbie said that, and like I said, and that is how I want to lose a game of football. If I'm going to play attacking, you know, and try and win the game, and I think Robbie's already said it before, he'd rather win 4-3 or 5-4 than 1-0. He just wants entertainment. That's what football's about. And obviously every manager has their own style, if you like. But I think every fan really deep down loves the attacking style of football, don't they? You know, you had your Man City in the Premier League, your Liverpool's, and you know, under Klopp is heavy metal football or whatever he called it. And I think, you know, that's kind of what Robbie wants. And I've spoke to him a couple of times, and I have said to him, you know, how good it is, and I love the way that he's so brave in his substitutions. Like I said, even at 0-0, you know, I think some managers get to points in games where it gets so late on in the game, and if you're still drawing, you're like, oh, we're just going to settle for the point here. We don't want to, you know, we don't want to lose the point. Whereas Robbie, he's the opposite to that. A point ain't good enough. He wants to win every game, and he makes his substitutions like against Eastleigh was like more or less every sub was attacking. Obviously, he brought on Innes, but he brought him on up front. I think that was more of like a Kiefer Moore kind of role. Like Mark Cooper used to play him. Well, he was brought in, and he was like a centre back or a striker, which is unheard of. He's normally a pretty similar position, like centre mid, centre back, winger, striker sort of thing. Like, but yeah, I mean, he's just so attacking, and I don't. He has said to me, he's like, "It's the only way to play football, and I won't ever change that."
And
So
that's good. That's what fans want to hear, isn't it? Before we move on to more negatives with Cheltenham, so Robbie Savage, tell me why you think it will be different to what you had under Duncan Ferguson, Troy Deeney, and Steve Cottrell. So obviously, Steve Cottrell's more experienced than the other two managers in terms of what he's achieved as a manager, but Troy Deeney, Duncan Ferguson, big names, which even yourself, I'm sure at one point you felt hopeful because of the caliber of the manager you was getting. What's going to be the difference this time?
I think it's his attitude around the club. Like I said, I've touched on it already. I think it's his positivity. I think it's what he brings with the fans, the players, and the club itself. He's got players that want to be there and play football. They're not there just for a payday. They want to come in. They want to achieve things. He's like I said. He's very positive. His football's great. He does everything he does is just right. I think with Steve Cottrell, I spoke to him. To be honest, I never had a problem with him. I spoke to him in one of our pre-season games. He seemed like a nice guy, but I've heard some contradicting stories. Again, I mean I can't like confirm whether they're true or not. I mean, some people know him better than I do. It sounded like he was a little bit stubborn in some ways, and he was one that he didn't seem to ever take a risk. Whereas I think with Robbie Savage, he's a lot braver. Again, it's something I've already touched on. I don't want to keep repeating myself. Rob Edwards done great for us, played attacking football. Robbie Savage makes braver substitutions, in my opinion, than what Rob Edwards did. And I think the whole difference is like Duncan Ferguson. I was quite hopeful when he came in because I think he had a little stint with Everton when they sacked one of their managers, and I thought he seemed to do okay, but the football was dire. Like it was dire. I've never seen it so bad. But I think it's also probably getting Mark Bowen in, the director of football, good friends with Robbie. I think it's getting the structure right off the field as well, which we lost that once Edwards. We lost obviously Rob Edwards, Rich Hughes, who for me he was one of the best director of footballs at the level at that time. The recruitment he done was like I thought phenomenal. I mean, we had like Joe Mills and Liam Shepherd as wing backs, and then we replaced them with Nicky Cadden and Kane Wilson. And I just at the time you don't realise spoilt you are, I don't think. But we had a very good structure off the pitch, and when we went up and we won League Two, everything just fell apart. The director of football went, the CEO went, half the team left and got released. The manager went. The rebuild's way too big, and as everyone saw, we felt the consequences of that with obviously a double relegation. But now, I think we've slowly built that structure back up as well.
Yeah.
Which for me is probably the biggest difference because it's not all on the manager. You're getting better recruitment and everything is just right behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's pretty much a mirror image of what happened at Cheltenham when we won League Two. We went out. We had Mickey Moore and Michael Duff in charge. Some people got their opinions on Mickey Moore. Personally, myself, I didn't like the fact that he touted a move to Forest Green, turned down Forest Green, got more money at Cheltenham, then went to Shrewsbury that summer anyway. So
Yeah.
that didn't sit right with me. But what I've always stood by, I think that him and Michael Duff work well together. Some people got the opinions that Mickey Moore was like more of an ego thing. He done it all, but you're right. We had that structure off the pitch, and Cheltenham had a philosophy where we was bringing in 6 players, we was releasing 6 players, bringing in 6 players, releasing 6 players.
Yeah.
So you had that continuity in building a squad, and everybody knew their jobs and their roles. I've talked to people, and they said Michael Duff just dragged the professionalism of the club to the ceiling, sort of thing. Where, like I said, you walked in, it just felt like a professional football club. We'll get on to Cheltenham in the moment in terms of what's gone on this week. It's the total opposite. But you're right. If you have that off the pitch, then you give yourself a great chance to have success. If you're turning over 15, 20 players every summer, then you know yourself that you'll go one way. You'll go one way.
Yeah.
You ain't going up if you're going to change 20 players every summer, because you're not building anything. Which, like I said, it kind of brings me on to this week, and I'd be interested to get your view on it. It was reported that Cheltenham have no longer got a kit man. That happens in football. We all know that. People move on and what have you. But what doesn't sit right with me is the rumours, and we call it rumours because it's not been confirmed by anybody, but the rumours that Michael Flynn has been washing the kit, which to me, as you know, Sean, I'm a diehard Cheltenham fan. It's very hard for me to say negative things about my club, but for Michael Flynn, to hear Michael Flynn's washing the kit, regardless if we're looking for a new kitman,
Yeah.
it just stinks of non-league. It stinks terribly of non-league, and as a professional club, you don't expect to wear a professional manager. I can tell you now, Michael Duff wouldn't have sat there and said, "Yeah, I'll wash the kit for you." Well, you get it. Michael Duff would have gone, "You allocate that to somebody in the background to get that done, or you bring somebody on a temp position until we feel somebody." I know managers like to recruit their own kit man, because those people have spent time in the changing rooms and they got to be able to trust that kit man. And I think Ed Murphy, I think he'd done it for about 10 years. But yeah, I did bite on X. Now being a member of the shadow board at Cheltenham, I've got to be careful what I say, because we are bound under a conduct which has been sent out this week, which I've still got to finish reading, but it tells you what we can and can't do on social media and stuff like that. But I did bite. I was sat in the bar in Weymouth having a pint, and I bit. Even Sean, even you went on there and had a bit of a joke, and I couldn't even bite at you.
I got to be honest. When I first saw the tweet from John Palmer, he's obviously a pretty reliable journalist for Cheltenham.
Yeah.
I had to double check it was his actual account. I thought, obviously, we've had a couple of joke accounts pop up in the last sort of few weeks, and I thought that was someone imitating John Palmer and was making that story up. I think it's mind-boggling. I also think it's a little bit scary that there's people at the club. But I mean, obviously, like you said, it's unconfirmed, and we don't know how long it's been happening. The kit man may have just left, and it could just be one of them things that's come into, or it could have been happening for a while. But yeah, I honestly, it blew my mind. Obviously, I couldn't help but have a bit of a laugh about it. And
let's face it, if it was the other way around, Cheltenham fans would have been the same.
Yeah, of course they would. I think any team, like any team where that happens, but you just don't expect it a professional club. I mean, especially I wouldn't expect it a team sort of in the National League, let alone a team in League Two, and I just think it's mind-boggling. I mean, yeah, Flynn's taken a bit of stick. In a way, rightly so. He's obviously not had the greatest of starts, but then how much of it is on him? Obviously, you don't see behind the scenes, and that's one of the things that you don't see. He's there and he's washing the kit. I mean, how long does all that take? Washing the kit, getting it all ready for a match day, especially when you got Saturday, Tuesday, or Saturday, Wednesday, and he's meant to be preparing the team, preparing tactics, planning for the next game, or even going to games and watching. Some managers, they go to a game and they'll watch our opposition before you play them. Has he got all that sort of time to go and do his own work if he's washing the kit? I mean, it's mental, mate. Honestly, I I can't believe that someone at the club has let it get that bad.
Well,
I've got to be honest.
it's been going on for a while, and I've been on the fence with Flynn because, like I said, at the end of the day, he's the manager. The manager needs to get a tune out the players, and that will always be down to the manager. I always say it. When you see these big cup upsets, it's always down to you look at Grimsby and Man United back last week. Grimsby Town would have known, they're not stupid. They'd look at the Man United side and go, "Christ, Benjamin Sesko and Brumo and Kuna all playing. They know that that's over £200 million worth of talent." But what Grimsby done was went out, set up, worked harder than these big multi-millionaire footballers, and they got a result from it. And this is what Cheltenham should be doing. Is that we're up against it. We've had 9-10 injuries. Any club in League One, League Two, 10 injuries, and pretty much the whole of your back four gone, will struggle. So I give him a little bit of leeway there, but it is down to Flynn to get the tune out of it. But when you hear things like that come out in terms of washing the kit, you're talking about the director of football. What's he doing in the background? Again, it's not confirmed. It's not. It's all hearsay. There's talks about we was going to sign Terry Aberlade. He was at Partick Thistle last season. Like you said, you know about the player. You've got a friend who supports Partick. But apparently he turns up for his medical and he's massively overweight. Why are we even contemplating signing a player who's overweight? We're meant to be scouting and looking at these players.
Yeah.
So he's turning up, and like I said again, this is not confirmed, but apparently Michael Flynn was not happy. And then literally an hour later after it getting announced by John Palmer that the deal had fallen through, we go and sign Taylor from Ipswich. A lot of people say it sounds like a bit of a panic signing, but looking into it now, the guy's 6'4". He's had over 30 plus goal and assist contributions in 60 games for Ipswich under 21s. And again, I'm not naive to under 21s. To football leagues a different standard, but maybe it might be that sort of signing we need, and it sounds more of a Michael Flynn signing, as did Isaac Hutchinson, who I think is an outstanding signing. I think that's probably the first sign of a Michael Garlick backed signing, because a lot of Bristol Rovers, I always go by what fans say. We're all fickle, and a lot of times when a player leaves, we'll all turn around and go, "Oh, he's rubbish anyway. I don't care." But when you get fans who will go, "Why the hell are we letting him go?" You read a lot into it, and I've not seen a lot of him at Rovers, even though he's scored a couple already this season. I go by Walsall, and he was outstanding at Walsall. So I think he could be that number 10. I think Michael Flynn said today in his press conference, he's a bit like Joe Colwell, who we had on loan from Cardiff last season. He's that sort of number 10 who drops on things, gets his odd goal. So that's what we've been missing. We're missing that link between a midfield and George Miller, because the trouble with Cheltenham is we've got Luke Young and Liam Kinsella, and I'll tell you now, Sean, they are unbelievable in terms of they work hard, they get stuck in.
Yeah.
But what they haven't got is they don't create a lot. So hopefully Isaac Hutchinson would do that. But yeah, it's not been pleasing what's come out of Cheltenham this week. And again, like I said, I'll always go by, and unless I know it's for fact, I would say it's rumours. It's what we've been told. The journalist who has put it out there is a credible journalist, and I know him quite well. And one thing I don't think he does is put BS out there. So, if Mike Garlick gets around to listening to this, or anybody from the club does, Mike Garlick's got a massive job on his hand for Cheltenham. I've given these guys up down the road a lot of stick over the last few years, and the money they've spent and what have you, but it seems like now they're getting it right. Now we need to get it right.
Yeah, and like I said earlier on, it's not going to be an overnight change. It's not probably going to be even a couple of months change. You've got to change things in the background, and then you'll also see improvements on the pitch. Going back to Isaac Hutchinson, I think that's a smart signing. One that I wasn't expecting Cheltenham to pull out, but I think I'm right in saying, like you just said there at Walsall, he played under Michael Flynn at Walsall, didn't he? And that's where he played his better football. So obviously I saw some comments from Rovers fans just saying it was about his attitude and whatever. There's a good player there if you can unlock it. And I think if anyone's going to do it, it's obviously going to be Michael Flynn. I mean, I've always been a bit reserved on Michael Flynn. I think I've tweeted it previously. Obviously, he hasn't really achieved anything, but then you look at some of the stuff that he's done. Was it Flynn at Swindon that had Jake Young, and who was
Yeah.
that? Who was the other one? And he had them to, I don't know. They fired a load of goals in, and it was an unbelievable partnership.
I went to Stevenage.
Yeah,
Dan
they got him
Kemp.
from
Dan
that.
Kemp.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at things like that, and I think it must give fans somewhat a bit of hope, surely, on
Yeah.
Michael Flynn's behalf.
Yeah, no, it has, and like I said, I'm still on the fence of him. At the end of the day, if we go and lose to Accrington, we go and lose to Oldham, go to lose to Crawley and Oldham, you can't be sitting here at the end of the month and saying that Michael Flynn's going to still be in the job. And even Michael Flynn would know that. He said that in his press conferences. He knows he's not naive. He's not stupid. But I would like to see now Mike Garlick's come in. You know, like I said, talking to a lot of Burnley fans, they say he's a proper football man, and I would like to see Mike Garlick give Flynn the tools to do his job. You know, people say that Michael Flynn hasn't done anything. Michael Flynn got Newport to the playoffs two years in a row. You know, lost to a 119th minute goal when he was down to 10 men against Tranmere, which obviously Tranmere went and got promotion. But I think he's a very good League Two manager. Whether he's the guy long term, you know, because obviously as investment comes in, as the infrastructure improves, obviously expectations going to go up. It does with every club, don't matter who you are. It's whether Michael Flynn's that man who can take Cheltenham back to that next level. You know, time will tell. It seems like he's going to be given a little bit of time, Sean, and I think that will be to the end of September, and then, you know, we'll assess it then, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I just touched on that in the thing. I said he hadn't achieved anything. I actually forgot about his Newport playoffs. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong, and it'd be interesting to see how the next. I think if we move on to the next sort of few games for Cheltenham, I think even you said it yourself. Yeah, you know, they're more than winnable, and in 3 games' time, you could be looking at a completely different attitude from Cheltenham fans.
Could either be mid-table or we could be going time to go.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how the next few games pan out for Cheltenham. Like you said, you've got to give him a bit of leeway because of all the off-field antics, the injuries, the takeover. None of that is easy. And it's all come along at once in a way, hasn't it? You've had your takeover, you've had your injuries happening at the same time. And obviously all these, the clubs seem to have, it sounds to me like the clubs off the field was getting neglected because of the takeover was, you know, no chairman or
Because it was happening,
whatever.
yeah.
So I think the club gets neglected whilst that process is happening, which could be where a lot of the problems have led. So it'd be interesting to see how you get on in the next few games, I think, and over the course of, you know, after January when Mike Garlick's really had his teeth into it a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be time will tell. You know, fingers crossed from my side anyway. As we're talking about the future, we're talking about Cheltenham, so we might just stick with tomorrow's game. So Cheltenham are at home to Accrington. Again, a huge game. Who would have thought 7 games into the season you'll be calling this a huge game? Accrington are a funny one. That Accrington haven't won a game yet, nor has Cheltenham. I'll check that in before Sean does. In the league anyway, Cheltenham haven't. So Cheltenham head to head with Accrington. We've beaten 8 times. We've drawn 8 times, and Accrington have won 7. So it's a very, very tight game. It was a tight game last season. Cheltenham beaten 2-1 at Warden Road. We went 1-0 down from Castalge in the 39th minute. Manny Norcat equalised in the 69th, and one Ryan Bowman scored the winner in the 80th. And a lot of people were saying then that was probably the game that saved Flynn from losing the fans completely, because we'd been pretty poor. So we managed to get the 2-1 win there, and then we drew 0-0 up at Accrington. And Joe, who I do the pod with, Robin's Report pod, turned around and said it was a total lack of football. It was the most dire, boring game he'd ever been to. There was nothing to talk about. I think somebody went and ticked it off for one of their 92, and I think their summary of the game was the same. So a 2-1 win and 0-0 last season. How did you see this one going for Cheltenham, Sean?
Well, to be fair, I think I did say it last night. I can see Cheltenham winning this. I haven't seen too much of Accrington Stanley, but I don't. I've got no idea on any of their signings, but I don't think they've started too well, and I can only see a Cheltenham win because I still think I look at the players Cheltenham's got, and I still think they're too good to be bottom of League Two. Like I said, especially with the new signings.
That, and I will keep that. I will keep that for forever and beyond. Cheltenham,
to be honest, I felt like that with Forest Green Mine the season we went down. I kept looking at it going, we've got a team that's too good for League to be at the bottom, and it just carried on and on and on.
You just said about their record, Sean, just before you carry on. Accrington's record is actually they played a game less than Cheltenham, but they played 5, they've won none, drew 3 and lost 2. So they've only actually lost 2 in the league, but they drew 3. So it tells you a bit of an harder team to beat than what people may think.
Yeah, I think, but being at Cheltenham as well, I think the fans are going to be up for it because they know it's a game where I think the fans are not going to be expecting to win, but I think this is where they're going to believe it's a game they could be winning or got a good chance of winning. I mean, you've had a few tough fixtures of late, so I think Cheltenham fans will believe they can. This could be the turning point in their season. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out tomorrow. I mean, obviously I'll be at the Forest Green game, so I won't be able to. I'll keep my eye on it. Obviously, I'll always hope for an Accrington win, but
I would expect any difference. Before we go on to Forest Green's game, then I'm going to put a little drum roll. What's your prediction?
I've gone for 1-1.
1-1. I'm going to go with. I think you're right. I think the fans will be up for it. There's little rumours there's going to be a little protest more towards Gary Johnson. What I will say to the fans is just get behind the team for the 90 minutes. No matter what happens after the game, do it respectively. But have your protest after that and what have you. But get behind the boys because it is only our 7th game, but it's that game what could kickstart our season like we did last season after we had that shambolic result against Swindon at home, and then we went and beat Colchester away, and we lost something like 6 in 26 games. After
I remember that, yeah, because there was a big uproar after that Swindon game with like how poor it was, and I was seeing things about how poor Swindon were, and they sort of come out on top 3-2.
We were 3-0 down, and everybody, like I got a mate who's a Swindon fan, and he said to me last season, he said, "Dan, we're going down." And I sat there in the first 20 minutes of that game. I went to my missus. I think it's right, why they are awful. But then 20, 30 minutes later, we're 3-0 down, and I'm just like scratching your head, going like, how? But then obviously, apparently, the players had a planned night out or something. They cancelled it. They had a big meeting, and then the Colchester away we won. And then we just kicked on. But we need to use this game now. It's still early in the season. We need to use this game as that game, right? Let's kick on. If we can get a result on tomorrow, then we can get a result next week at Crawley. Then you never know. I think Mike Flynn said Harry Powell, Rob Cundy are all coming back. They'll all be back for Crawley. So the squad's starting to thicken up a bit again. Mazionis will be back from international duty next week against Crawley. So, the back four is looking a bit more healthy. Harry Powell, if Touchwood for him, hopefully he can stay fit. After doing his knee in, just seems to be picking up those little niggles in training. If he can stay fit, who knows? But I'm going to go for 2-1 Cheltenham and the start of the revolution, Sean.
Oh well, I went for 1-1, but I think that's more out of hope than anything. I I can see a Cheltenham win. I've said that, but I'm kind of hoping they keep their unbeaten. Their winless run to the season going.
Anyway, let's move on to Forest Green. Um, um, so you're at home tomorrow against Hartlepool. Um,
Yeah,
you've head to head. You've played 4 times with 2 Forest Green Rovers wins and 2 draws. We said before we come on air, Sean, we thought there'd have been more head to heads between Hartlepool and Forest Green, but I think when you went up to League One, they got relegated to the Football League. So obviously, when you came back down, they was already in the National League. But you, like I said, last season you had head to head with them. You beat them 1-0 at the New Lawn, and I think you said you went to the one up at Hartlepool where it finished 1-1 and Forest Green scored really late. Hartlepool have drawn 3 and won 2. And Forest Green have won 4 and drawn 1 over their last 5 games. So Hartlepool, again, another side who seems to be hard to beat. And Forest Green seem to be a side that find it hard to lose at the moment. So, unfortunately. So what's your thoughts, Sean?
well, I've gone for a 2-1 Forest Green for this game. Tough game. Very experienced manager. They got Simon Grayson as manager. They've made some good signings. Obviously, they've got Alex Reid up front, who he seemed to score goals last season at Wildstone. He was actually linked with. I mean, I don't know if there's any truth in it. He was actually linked to us last season in sort of. I think it was around January, sort of, just after the window shut and all. So I think they're a dangerous side. I have looked at their games, and they've drew away at Southend, which Southend ain't an easy team to play against. So I can't see it being a high scoring game. I mean, I think they've drew their last 3. Am I right in saying?
Yeah,
I think they drew their last three games. So yeah, I mean, I can see another draw tomorrow as well. Don't get me wrong, but we're scoring goals. I think because they've only scored 9 goals. I think we scored 14 so far. But then they seem to have a slightly tighter defence. So yeah, it'd be interesting. It'd be a battle of attack, v battle of defence, I think. But hopefully we can come out on top.
Yeah, you are right. Their results have been, if you went with a 6, they beat Braintree 2-0, they beat Altrincham 2-0 away, beat Woking 3-0. Then they drew 1-1 with Southend, 0-0 with Bournemouth, and 1-1 with Boston. So another thing that tells you as well, they don't seem to concede a lot of goals over, do they?
No, I actually thought that because they drew 0-0 in their first game, and then it was 2-0, 2-0, 3-0. So their first 4 games they didn't even concede a goal. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Then again, it was last season. We only beat them. I think it was 1-0 at the New Lawn, and then drew them away. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Big team. They normally travel quite well. The Hartlepool fans get behind them. I know Jeff Stelling ain't there. One of the Forest Green fans did tag him to ask him, and he said he couldn't make it tomorrow, so he's not going to be there.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
I know, yeah, but I think he said he was at there the game after, so he is still tagging along. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough game. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. You work all week and you're just looking forward to going to them games on a Saturday, ain't you? So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, you've got 2-1. Just because of how tight I think Hartlepool are, and I think this season they might be around the playoffs. I've gone for 1-1. I can't see them winning, but I've gone for 1-1. If there's a likely winner, I think it'll be Forest Green.
I think. Sorry to interrupt. Just quickly, Alex Reid. I think he's their top goal scorer as well. The one that I touched on. Looks like he scored 3 goals. So he's one that we're going to really have to try and keep hold of.
But talking about Forest Green, obviously your first 7 games, I think I said it to you, they've been relatively straightforward, haven't they? They've been the clubs who you would expect to be down towards the bottom or mid-table. I'm looking at what Forest Green have got coming up. So you've got Hartlepool tomorrow. You then start a run of Scunthorpe, Woking away. You've got Altrincham away. You've got York. You've got Boston. You've got Rochdale, and you've got Carlisle. I said, I think we'll find more about Forest Green after these games. Am I right in saying if Forest Green get through those run of fixtures unscathed, that you could be looking at maybe being Barnet of last season and pulling clear?
Well, I think what we're agreed on is, the first few games, yeah, they're teams that we should be expecting to beat. I think everybody in football who knows football, from whether that's Premier League, sort of, you kind of know that you don't really know your league position until you've played everybody once.
Yeah.
You kind of get an idea whether you're going to be sort of like the top end, mid, or bottom end after about 15 games. But until you've played everybody once, I think it's tough. I mean, I do compare a lot of our result, like the start that we've had. I do keep looking back at the Barnet's start last season just to see how we're comparing on results, goals scored and goals conceded. I haven't looked of late, but when I did look, I think it was after 4 games, and I think we were what I would say better, but then they probably had a bit of a tougher start than what we did. So yeah, over the next sort of 8 games, I think that's where we're going to learn a lot about Forest Green and how good I don't want to try and say like I'm being big-headed or anything here, but how good we really are. We've got a young side, a hungry side, but it'd be a good test to see where we come out of.
I think you've got every right to be optimistic. It's been a great start. I think a lot of people did, and I think even your own fans. I think they wrote Robbie Savage off because apart from doing what he'd done with Macclesfield, where they had a good back in and they was getting good crowds at theoretically Southern League level. I think at the moment he's answering the questions. You've had a great start. You're sitting top of the league. I know Rochdale have got a game in hand. Just one question, obviously. Why have York only played one's Morecambe? Why have they only played? They played 3 less than everybody else.
Because they obviously due to their takeover that the guy wouldn't sell the club, so they ended up getting suspended from the National League for the first 3 they had until the 20th.
Not Morecambe, York.
Oh, York.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I think one of their fixtures was Morecambe, but they didn't have a game in the midweek.
No,
they obviously changed their manager, and their game in midweek, when I was looking at the results, it was saying postponed to play at a later date. So why that was, I couldn't tell you, but obviously they've started a little bit slower, I think, York. So it'd be interesting to see where, how they fathom out. I can't wait to see how we play against them. Obviously, they've just changed their manager.
Well, you've got them in a about
a few weeks' time.
You and Oakley don't kick into gear now, but if they are stuttering at the start, it might be the best time to play them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look here to see why their game was postponed, but I can't really see. But yeah, I'm not sure. That's a weird one. Obviously, Morecambe we all understand, but York's a bit of an odd one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I think it's 5 out of our next 8 fixtures are going to be teams that are probably looking in the playoff / or trying to get the automatic promotion spot. So yeah, it's going to be a big 8 games.
I think we definitely know more about Forest Green after that. You are right. No game is guaranteed. Don't matter if you play bottom or top. You've got to turn up and play what's in front of you. You only got to look at you guys against Solihull on the opening day. down to 10 men for pretty much 90 minutes and you drew 2-2. Now, I'm sure you guys were kicking yourself, but it just proves that you've got to be on your game to beat what's in front of you.
Yeah, I mean that result surprised me because I look at them now and I didn't even realise they were bottom of the table until I looked last night.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, they've obviously been atrocious. So I mean that now, I think Roberts said that as well. He's like, that's not a good point really, because he said we should have won the game. Obviously, and he didn't mean that in a disrespectful way. But I mean, yeah, I mean that annoys me. But that's football at the end of the day. I mean, especially first game of the season, that was the only downside to it. They don't know how their season's going to pan out, and now their confidence is probably completely shot. So,
yeah,
I mean, if we played them now, I'd like to think we'd probably have a different result in that game.
Yeah, you probably would, to be fair. So, because obviously we didn't do. This is our first talk of the county. I'm going to ask you before we move on to just talk about Gloucester City's game tomorrow. We're going to do a quick one because obviously we've got a Gloucester City fan coming on in our next pod. So we'll let them do more talking. But your prediction of where Cheltenham will finish this season? Drum roll.
Oh, that's a tough one because I have said it. I can't. I always think Cheltenham are going to go down, and then they sort of pull themselves or give themselves a good chance. But I'm going to just throw one out there, and I'm probably going to say they're going to end up about 15th or 16th.
I wrote that one down. I think I said at the beginning of the season 17th, and I still think we'll finish about 17th. I agree with what you said earlier, Sean. I think the squad we've got, when you look at if everybody's fit, I think it's enough. You know, oddly, we lost to Bromley and we lost to Barnet, and I thought Barnet were awful, but we were that bad. We lost 1-0, even down to 10 20 minutes to go. We was diabolical, but I do think there's two teams worse in League Two in Cheltenham, and I feel we're playing one of them tomorrow, and I feel we're playing the other one next Saturday, which is Crawley. So I've got 17th for Cheltenham. I'm going to put you down as 15th. I'll buy you a point if we finish 15th. And for Forest Green, I'm going to go and I'll do the drum roll. Second. And the reason I'm going second is I just feel I did have York down as a team who I thought was going to run away with it, but I feel with Carlisle, I think they've got a manager who has got know-how. I think they've done well to keep him. A lot of people say, well, you know, he's failed here, but let's not forget that the bloke has managed at Premier League level and what have you. But I just feel they've got in Rogan Linney. He's scoring a few goals for them, isn't he?
He's playing a level below at least. I think he's definitely he's a top. I think he'd be a top end League Two player myself. Yeah. Cracking player. I think he's probably on par with Ollie Pearce at York. They both bag goals at this level, and Regan Lynn is doing exactly that. I think he scored about 4 goals.
Yeah, I think
this season. He got a hat trick and he scored last. I'm sure he scored last. Tuesday night. Yeah. So I think he's got at least 4 goals. I don't know if he's got any other ones. So yeah.
Wednesday night, sorry, not Tuesday.
I went for York as league winners, and I went for a second and Carlisle third. I think. Yeah, I can see really now. I mean, I'm not going to change my predictions. I'm going to keep them like that. But I can probably see Carlisle finishing higher than York. So I personally think it's going to be out of us and Carlisle to win the league. It'd be top 2 and then York third. But I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep my predictions with York, Forest Green, and Carlisle. I don't want to change partway through now.
You've got yourself as second as well, have you?
Yeah, York, FGR, and Carlisle.
Yeah. Right. Just before we move on to Gloucester City, what I will say is it's really good news that Morecambe are back. You know, you played them Tuesday. They're back playing football. The club's been saved. Football won in the end. I was worried for him. I thought they was going. I think I spoke to a Morecambe fan the other week, and he said to me that he said we'll go down. He said, but I don't care. He said we've got a club. He said we can rebuild again from the Conference North next season, because if we stay up this season, it'll be an absolute miracle. But all I want to say, and I'm sure you'll echo that, Sean, is it's really good news to see that they're operating and their fans have still got a club.
100%. I think it's a cracking away day. I think obviously you touched on it. I think that is one where I think when we talk about expectations on fans and things like that, I think that's one where, you know, that proves it. The fans, they don't care, you know, about the relegation. I think myself, it would be a miracle if they stayed up. Obviously, I've predicted them to be 24th as well. There was a point when I thought they'd gone. There was a few rumours floating around saying that they'd gone. Obviously, that was wide of the mark. But yeah, happy to see him still going. I thought they done themselves proud the other night. And it was good to see Robbie actually walk around the pitch and clap the home fans. You don't normally get managers doing that. You know, some managers don't even clap their own fans, like the away fans. But he clapped the away fans, and he went round and he clapped the Morecambe fans, and you know, he fully gets that as well. Like when you watch him in his interview, he fully gets it. You know, it's the community. It's, you know, everyone I think likes to go to football as their breakaway. Like yourself, Dan, you're, you know, religiously Cheltenham through and through. And if there wasn't a club there, what do you do on Saturdays? It's you know, it's a massive difference when the club goes. So yeah, it's great to see him still going. I hope they do well. Now we've played them at least once, so I wouldn't mind to see him try and string a few wins together and give themselves a bit of a chance and something to fight for this season, even if they do go down. But yeah, still nice to see them.
Yeah, no, well said. And just moving on to, like I said, we won't talk too much about Gloucester tonight, because obviously what we want to try and do over the seasons, we want to get fans to come on a bit to talk about their club. You know, predominantly we've gone with the county's top three sides. At the moment, I'll say Cheltenham sitting as number one, Forest Green, and Gloucester City. What we will do if we you know, get any fans from Bishop Cleeve or anything like that want to come on, just give me and Sean a shout on X. And we'll happily get you on. You know, this is Talk of the County. What we're going to do is talk about the football clubs. We will have Dave Angel on our next pod. We will talk about Gloucester, talk about their game Saturday. They've got Dorchester. So Gloucester at the moment is sitting fourth in the Southern Premier. They played 5, won 3, drew 1, lost 1. They beat Portchester in the FA Cup replay on the weekend, in midweek rather, sorry. They drew 1-1 in the first game at Meadow Park, and they won 2-0 on Tuesday. I believe Dave Angel and a few Gloucester City fans are pretty pleased with that one, because it doesn't sound like Portchester were very sportsman-like. A lot of abuse, not just from the fans, but their chairman and what have you. Fans being ejected at Portchester and being told the reason he was ejected was because they could. That sounds great. So, you know, coming from a Cheltenham Town fan, things like that, I'm glad you won.
But it's funny you say that about them, actually, and I don't want to go back to Forest Green and whatever, we've already spoke about that. But when I went up Halifax the other week, there was a group of obviously FGR fans, like all singing and chanting and stuff like that, and the stewards there went to the top of the stand and told them all to be quiet. That's the first time at a football game. They weren't being abusive, they weren't swearing, they were just singing songs, and obviously they were giving some of the Halifax players a bit of stick, you know, if they misplaced a pass, if the ball got overran, and they went up there and told them to keep quiet. I mean, that's got to be a first at a football game. I've never heard of that, but
you've got to be careful though, haven't you? Because the trouble is that, you know, fans do go away, and you do get the odd local idiot who ruin it for everybody, but you know, fans do go away to watch their team play football. And you know, I've had it before. I think with Notts County last season, in Cheltenham we took about 400 up there, but there was few lads at the back who was creating a bit of an atmosphere, and the stewards. It was one of those games where nothing was happening in the crowd, but the stewards were looking for something, and they was just literally watching this group of Cheltenham fans for 90 minutes, and even I piped up and I said they ain't doing anything, and I said to my missus, I said it'll all kick off. I said because they're looking for something to happen.
Yeah.
And you've got to be careful. Like I said, fans, 95% of fans go to football because they want to watch their team play and not being treated like a kid, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to, like you said, like that game for Gloucester City, to turn around and go, oh, we done that because we can. I mean, come on, like, you're all adults here. Let's just let people enjoy the game, like enjoy the moments. I mean, no one obviously likes losing, but you got to. I always say it to my boys when they play football. You got to lose like you take winning. You got to lose gracefully and just keep going. And I just don't like these sort of attitudes from, like you just said, stewards when they're looking for trouble. I think it happens at every ground at some point through the season. You get, we've been places and the stewards have been great, and then you see other games and the stewards have been right jobs worth. So I think you get it all through the season. But who did you say that was with Thingy Dan? That was the owner or something, wasn't it?
It was the chairman. Apparently,
Chairman.
What I was told by a Gloucester fan. Yeah, the chairman was said, "Oh, we can do it because we can." And
it's just a petulant child, if you ask me.
I'm not sitting here going to be naive and go, that there wasn't anybody like chops in or anything like that, because as we know, these things do happen. But yeah, sometimes I think people can go a bit over the top and they just end up ruining it for the people who just, like you said, we live for going for weekends to go and watch football, play football, whatever we do. The last thing you want is I'll use this word lightly, but some job's worth going to sit there and ruin it for people because they can.
Exactly. What to sort of go back to Gloucester? What are your thoughts for them tomorrow? Then looks like Dorchester are second bottom.
Yeah, they've got 3 points on the board, and they've lost
2, isn't it?
Is it 2?
Yeah, I think they've drew 2 and lost 3.
I must have put drew 2. Yeah, sorry, you are right. Drew 2, lost 3. That's my maths, and being a forester, so I'd have enough fingers on my mind. Yeah, so Sean is right. It's drew 2, lost 3. I can see it being quite a comfortable win for Gloucester City. Dorchester, always been a club who they was up in the conference safe at one point. But yeah, I can see quite a comfortable 3-0 win for Gloucester.
Yeah, I mean, going by, yeah, Gloucester 4th. I'll say 3-1 Gloucester.
3-1 Gloucester. Brilliant. That's a good place to end it. I'll say this tongue in cheek is good luck for Saturday, Sean.
And you, Dan.
And hopefully when we meet up again, we both had a positive result. Good luck to Gloucester City. Good luck to my hometown, Siniford Town, who are away at Hereford Pegasus in the Atlantic Premier. Not a very good start to the season for them. But I did forget to say at the beginning, I'm your host, Daniel Hopkins, and I'm joined by co-host Sean Baker. We are Talk of the County, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Right, see you all later, guys.